Take today's gospel, and if I may, turn it around on its head and start with the end and go back to the beginning. Jesus says, if God were your Father, you would love me. If we have God truly for our Father, we would truly love Jesus. And loving Jesus would set us free. You see, love turns us into the object that we love. Love turns us into that object that we are attracted to. So, if we love God, we become like God. But if we love silly putty, we become like silly putty. We become the object that we love. It's a very great truth, and it goes back even to the Greek philosophers that understand this, especially Plato. In his work, The Symposium, he talks about this, that love is the great equalizer. It equalizes people because it draws people to the object. And so we are drawn to the object that is God, and so we love God, and so we become like God. But we can also be drawn to other objects that are not God and that don't lead to God. And those objects end up enslaving us. See, when we become obsessed about these things of the world that maybe please us, and that could be anything. That could be our career, that could be our possessions, that could be our car, that could be our sailboat, that could be our golf game, whatever it is. But that, when we are obsessed by that, when we love that and our heart is there and our treasure is there, you see how that slaves us? And see how we become sinful in slavery because we love that object more than God? Even in families, just think about families. We are children of parents, and we have parents that have brought us into this world and have given us life, and we're called to, the commandments say, we're called to honor and respect our parents. And we're called to honor and respect them partially because they are kind of taking the place of God in our lives. They are the ones who are the first authority figures in our lives. And that's how we understand. And it's very important, that role of parenthood, because being a father and a mother, you're kind of taking the place of God in the life of the children. And so you have to do that in a loving manner and even discipline your child in a loving manner. But then look at it in another way. Look about the parents. And look at the children. Of course, they're called to raise the children so that they become good people and good citizens and good people who love God and love their neighbor. And that's what their parents are called to do. But look what can happen if the parents love the child just for the child. If they make an image out of that child, they can start to worship that child. That child can become an idol to them. And they find all their value in that child, and they find their validation in that child. But you see, they become in certain manner enslaved by the child. And they become, because they love that child more than God. And the child isn't a means of bringing them closer to God. It's actually a means of taking them away from God. And so that's where we become enslaved. That's where we become enslaved, where the objects take the place of God in our lives. We become slaves to them. But when those objects lead us to God, then we become free. Then we become free because we love something greater than ourselves. And we love something greater than ourselves that gives us openness and amplitude and freedom. And so, yes, the things that we have or the things in our lives, we must love them as means to God, as ways or ways that bring us closer to God, and not things that take us away from God. And it's an important discernment to make in our lives. Yes, is this attachment, is that bringing me ultimately closer to God? Then it's helpful for me. But if this thing is not bringing me closer to God, then it is dangerous for me. And it will become a problem and even a sin. And of course, for the children, if we worship the children, that's not good for ourselves, and it's certainly not good for the children either. So yes, we are free when we love all things for God. And yes, when we are like the Father, when we love the Father because he's our Father, and we understand who Jesus is, and we become like Jesus, because we always become like the object that we love.